Hi, I'm Catherine Alice. I am bisexual and bigender, and I'm really excited to be sharing this talk with you about religion and queerness today. I hope you enjoy it and have a wonderful Leeds LGBT Book Fest.
This talk is going to be part sermon, part TED Talk, part call to arms. I want to talk to you today as a queer Christian. Many people think that being LGBTQ+ and being a person of faith aren't compatible. And it's not surprising that this belief is held by many. Many religions are exclusionary of queer people, and many teach that they are mutually exclusive. But I want to talk to you today about why I don't think that's the case. I'm not going to debate whether the Bible or other scriptures say it's okay or not to be queer. Frankly, that's a debate that I am tired of, and other people can argue it better than me. Books like God and the Gay Christian by Matthew Vines, or organisations like the Proud Trust, Hidayah, JQ, and the Naz and Matt Foundation, for example. All of these arguments for me can be best summed up in this quote about Christianity by Nathan Ham, who said, "If you are using the Bible to argue for oppression, exclusion, or violence, then you have misunderstood both the story and the storyteller." What I want to do instead is talk about intersections, places where the Venn diagrams of queerness and faith overlap. Queerness intersects with faith so beautifully. Any delve into queer theology books will show you that the two have more in common than what sets them apart, to quote the late MP Jo Cox. The first, which is one of my favourite aspects of queer life, is chosen family. Your chosen family are those people who fulfil that role of family as a support system, often when people have been rejected by their family of origin after coming out. Many also live within both family systems, chosen family and family of origin. Chosen families are incredible and a big part of queer life for many people. They can also be deeply spiritual, and there are so many examples of chosen family in religious texts. Most religions speak about adoption and looking after orphans. Many also speak about widows, taking in people who have lost their partners and sometimes by extension, their wider families. A beautiful example of this is the story of Ruth and Naomi found in the Torah and the Bible. Ruth was Naomi's daughter-in-law, but when both of their husbands died, there was no expectation for Ruth to stay with Naomi as part of her family. But Ruth was defiant. She said, "Where you go, I will go, and when you stay, I will stay." Ruth and Naomi chose each other as family, even after their traditional familial bonds were gone. Jewish people read this story at Shavuot, the holiday that celebrates the giving of the Torah. Sharing this story emphasizes that people live a life of Torah when love and devotion are shown to everyone who is part of their chosen family, Jewish or otherwise. Similarly, in queer chosen families, we see that strong love and devotion to each other, whether people share blood or not. We also see stories in scriptures of families of all shapes and sizes. The typical nuclear family is not the only religious model. The second is speaking truth to power. It's no secret that queer communities aren't always the best of friends with law enforcement agencies and governments, and all those in power who seek to harm us and deprive us of our rights. Queer people have always had to speak truth to power in order to just exist in peace. It's become a huge part of the community. Our pride marches are not just to celebrate who we are, but also to protest ongoing injustices, like at the first Pride at Stonewall. And especially when it comes to sex, sexuality, and our bodies, we can feel policed by religion too. I'm pretty sure I won't be the only one who grew up in a purity culture, the idea that the only acceptable sexual expression is within a straight marriage. There's a story in the Bible about a woman who'd been caught committing adultery. They stood her in front of everyone in the temple to humiliate her, and they were ready to stone her to death. But Jesus was there. They asked him, "What do you think we should do with her?" Jesus tells them that if any of them are completely innocent of any sin or wrongdoing, then they can throw the first stone at her. One by one, they all leave. And Jesus says to the woman, "They couldn't judge you as guilty, and neither will I." I absolutely love the stories where Jesus calls out authority figures and holds them accountable for their actions. This story seems especially pertinent at the moment with all the chaos going on in the world, from poor leadership to police brutality. In order to be in a position where we can properly share love with the world in an authentic way, I think sometimes we need to be doing the same, holding our leaders accountable for the hurt they have caused, and not condemning those who don't fit into narrow boxes of acceptability. It might also include holding ourselves accountable at times, especially if we have privilege that others don't. I also think queerness enhances or even improves a life of faith with pride. Society and religion are full of messages of shame. Shame about our bodies, our clothes, our personalities, our sex lives, how we keep our homes, how we raise our kids. But one of the key words that we associate with being LGBTQ is pride, which I think in this instance is the antidote to shame. It's not the sort of pride that inflates our egos, but pride in who we are deep within. Pride that tells us we are worthy of love, we are worthy of happiness, we deserve good things. I think I would actually go as far as to say that queer people of faith are modern day prophets. Let me explain what I mean by that. In one of my favourite sitcoms, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Captain Holt says to Rosa Diaz after she comes out as bisexual, "Every time someone steps up and says who they are, the world becomes a better, more interesting place." I really think that this is what it means to be a prophet today. Prophets are people regarded as inspired teachers or proclaimers of the will of God. Historically, prophets have often been social outcasts in their time, as people haven't always understood them. They were people ahead of the times. Queer people of faith are often those figures today. There are some amazing books on prophets, especially this one curated by Ruth Hunt. In the book of Queer Prophets, some amazing people share their stories of faith and how their queerness enhances and challenges that. Lady Phil writes, "My queerness is a compass, a spiritual marker, this way home." The Message translation of Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12 from the Bible says, "Hatred starts fights, but love pulls a quilt over the bickering." I love this image of a quilt. Quilts are made up of lots of smaller pieces, often of different patterns and styles to each other, but they come together to form something beautiful. As the saying goes, if you have more than you need, build a bigger table, not a higher fence. Sadly, we know that religions can be exclusionary. Many of us also know that queer spaces can sometimes be exclusionary too, and can be places where a lot of gatekeeping happens, especially to trans and non-binary people. This is just absurd. How can a community built on principles of inclusion be so exclusionary? But without exception, every queer faith space I've ever been in has been the most inclusive space. Space where the table is built bigger and more squares are added onto the quilt. Spaces that are prophetic, where the will of God is proclaimed and change happens. A Bible verse Christians love when it comes to thinking about radical social change is Micah chapter 6, verse 8, which says, "What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God." All of that can be much easier said than done, but I challenge you to find a group of people as good at these things as queer people of faith. I'm not saying that it comes easily, rather the opposite, that these are qualities that queer people have had to develop just to survive in those liminal spaces that we live in. I'm also not saying that it's solely down to queer people of faith to act for justice. It's absolutely a group effort. But I hope if you're listening to this talk from one side or another, or neither, that you recognise that queer people of faith have something utterly unique to offer the world. I wonder if you know the starfish story, which was adapted from The Star Thrower by Lauren Isley. It tells the tale of starfish that have been washed up on a beach and are dying in the hot sun. So a little boy goes and starts throwing them back into the sea to save them. An old man tells the boy that it's no use. There are thousands of starfish and he won't be able to make a difference. The little boy picks up another starfish, throws it back into the sea and says, "It made a difference to that one." It's not down to any one person to change the world. And we may or may not be able to make an earth-shatteringly huge difference to inequality in our lifetimes, but we will be able to make a difference. And most of the time, it's just about caring enough to try. Similarly to this, a paraphrased quote from Wisdom of the Jewish Sages by Rabbi Rami Shapiro, which talks about that verse from Micah found in the Bible and the Torah, says this: "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." So this is my call to arms. If you're a queer person of faith, you are amazing and you have power. You are a prophet in our times, and change can and will come through you. If you're a queer person or a person of faith or neither, how can you be looking to this community in the intersection for wisdom and guidance, for how to build a bigger table or sew a bigger quilt? We need to work together to build these radically inclusive prophetic spaces where all people, especially those who are otherwise left out, are brought in. We need to be better. How can we all take up this mantle and stop pretending that we have more that sets us apart than we have in common? I want to challenge you to come up with one thing, just one, that you can do or change to move the world in the right direction, the direction of love. Thank you.